Hey there, Nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are back with another episode of Way of the Underhive. This is a series that is dedicated to brand new players for Necromunda, and if you're wondering exactly what you need to do in order to build a gang, what kind of tips and tricks we could recommend, and what kind of builds we would recommend for a House Van Saar gang, then this is the episode for you. Today's episode is dedicated to House Van Saar. We will be talking about the gang's strengths and weaknesses. We'll also be talking about the individual fighters that make up your gangs, and then we'll present 3 different gang lists that you can use to start your very first campaign of Necromunda with House Van Saar. So that being said, let's get this video on a roll. Alright, first of all, let's talk about the strengths of House Van Saar. So let's go a quick overview real quick. When it comes to shooting, House Van Saar is primarily a shooting gang. They have a ballistic skill of anywhere between 3+ to 2+ for most of your fighters, so shooting is what you do best, and that is what you should primarily focus on with House Van Saar. They have excellent weapons as well as equipment, and you are spoiled for weapon choices as well as upgrades for this gang as well. Especially when it comes to your last weapons, for the most part. You can give them focusing crystals to give them additional bonuses. You could also give them hotshot power packs to make them stronger. The list goes on. You also have an excellent selection of skills, with shooting skills being extremely important to this gang because you want to maximize your hits and maximize your shooting ability with this gang. At the same time, you also have the very interesting Cyber Technica game mechanic, which is a very good way to patch up your fighters with lasting injuries. We're not going to spend too much time on Cyber Technica for the most part because you're really not going to invest in that game mechanic as a first off starting player when you first create your gang. But I will say this though, Cyber Technica is a good way to get rid of those lasting injuries that your fighters will accumulate over the course of the campaign. So now that we're done talking about the strengths of this gang, let's go and talk about its weaknesses. Alright, so let's go and talk about the weaknesses with this gang. The major weakness of this gang is even though you do have excellent shooting, that is all you're really good at. There's lots of potential handicaps with having a shooting-based gang, especially in games of Necromunda. Especially if you're in a situation where you're in a Zone Mortalis battlefield, we don't have very long-range shots to take out your opponents. Everything is pretty much in close quarters combat. In that kind of situation, you really got to keep it in check to make sure that that shooting is still maximized even though those shorter ranges, because otherwise if you can't shoot, it's really going to cause you to suffer. At the same time, you have very slow movement for this gang as well as very low initiative. You really can't cross the battlefield too quickly, with most of your fighters being only movement forward for standard. Now, of course, you do have neotechs that do kind of solve this problem. However, though, we'll talk about those guys a little bit more in detail because they're a little bit fragile. Up close missions are going to be your bane in this with this gang. So being stuck in Zone Mortalis, for example, is going to take away your ability to shoot at long distances. It's going to require up close fighting, which you're not very good at. So you got to watch out for that. And at the same time, your fighters also cost a lot of points for a reason. And the reason why is because you have that really high shooting ability, as well as the equipment you can get your hands on. So because of that, you will always be outnumbered as a Van Saar player. However, you will never be outgunned though. So now that we're done talking about the gang strengths and weaknesses, let's go ahead and talk about the individual fighters as well as some tips as well as techniques that you can use for those fighters. So first up is the Van Saar Prime, which is the leader of your gang. This character costs 136 credits. This character has 4 inches for movement, 4+ for weapon skill, 2+ for ballistic skill, 3 strength, 3 toughness, 2 wounds, 5+ for initiative, 2 attacks, 4+ for leadership, 5+ for cool, 5+ for willpower, as well as 4+ for intelligence. So let's go and talk a little bit more about this fighter in depth. So when it comes to your leader of your gang is pretty good when it comes to shooting stats. So basically the best equipment for this fighter would be a special weapon of some sort, probably more like a plasma gun or a grav gun or even a melta gun, and a close combat weapon as a backup. So because of that, the greatest combination for this guy I recommend is using a plasma weapon of some sort with an energy shield. It works very, very good for this character. The energy shield can protect your character from being shot at, as well as useful in close combat, plus that plasma weapon, especially plasma rifles, are extremely deadly, especially when you have rapid fire ability attached to them. So that's how I would kit up your leader. Make this leader a really good fighter in terms of shooting, and have that close combat weapon for backup. Alright, up next you have your Van Saar Augmech, which is your champion for this gang. This guy costs 110 credits. For this fighter, you have 4-inch movement, 4+ weapon skill, 2+ ballistic skill, 3 strength, 3 toughness, You also have 2 wounds, 4 plus initiative, 1 attack. You have 5 plus for leadership, 6 plus for cool, 6 plus for willpower, as well as 5 plus for intelligence as well. Now when it comes to your augment, it's your standard champion and it's good for one thing and one thing only, which is shooting. You're not going to be doing much of this character in terms of close combat. So my suggestion is to give your augment either a special weapon or, preferably if you want to put in them points, heavy weapons with a dispenser. Now the reason why you want to do that is because the special weapons will give you some much needed firepower, a heavy weapon even more so, and you want to put that dispenser on that heavy weapon so that way this character can move and shoot within the same turn. At the same time, this character also has access to savant skills as well as shooting skills, which are both equally important for this character. And what I would recommend is that you kind of decide which one is more important to you. Do you want to be able to give ammo rerolls and help out your gang with accruing credits as well as trading, or do you want to have your augment be able to do more shooting? It's more of a tactical decision for you guys. You could have one of each. Have one augment be a champion that's responsible for savant skills. Another would be shooting skills. Like I said, it's kind of depending on what you want to accomplish over the course of the campaign. Alright, so up next is your Van Saar Archaeotech. This is the brand new champion that was released with the House of Artifice. This character costs 125 credits. This character's got 4-inch movement, it's got a 4 plus weapon skill, 2 plus a skill, it's got 3 strength, 3 toughness, 2 wounds, 5 plus for initiative, 2 attacks. He's got 4 plus leadership, 6 plus cool stat, 6 plus willpower stat, as well as 5 plus intelligence. So let's go and talk a little bit about this character for the most part. So this is a specialist champion, and he actually comes in later in your campaign. You're not really going to be spending him any points for this guy up front, and the reason why is because of the way that this character is kind of built. It's kind of an interesting way. This character is good to have as a close combat, almost medium range fighter. So because of that, you don't want to really buy this guy at the start. And the reason why is because the things that you'd use him for is for Cybertechnica, is what you're using him for. Now this guy does have a rule called Master Cybertechnica, which means that the cost of any Cybertechnica purchased by your gang is reduced by half. So if you want to buy those cybernetic upgrades for your fighter, this guy is going to be very, very important for you. So with that being said, it's actually better for you to buy this character later on as the campaign as you progress, when you earn more credits for this character than right off the bat, because he's really going to be only useful when your guys actually start taking injuries over the course of the campaign. Now, always put savant skills on this guy. Unfortunately for him, this guy has a really horrible set of skills he can choose from. He either has savant skills or tech skills, and tech skills unfortunately are not very good for the House Van Saar gang. I was actually kind of sad to see how kind of flimsy that technical skill was. So because of that, you always want to put savant on this guy as well. And like I said, if you plan on purchasing Cybertechnica for your gang, this guy is a must-have just because he rounds down the cost of the cybernetic upgrades by half. Alright, so up next we have your techs. These are the gangers that make up your gang. Let's go and talk about these guys real quick. They cost 65 credits apiece. They have 4-inch movement, 4 plus weapon skill, 3 plus a skill, 3 strength and toughness. They also have 1 wound. They also have 5 plus initiative, 1 attack, 6 plus leadership, 7 plus cool, 7 plus willpower, and 6 plus intelligence. Now when it comes to your techs, these guys are your members of your gang, and they're perfect for being long-range shooters. Okay, equip these guys with cheap las weapons for accurate long-range shooting. So things like las guns, for example, or las carbines if you want to have rapid fire ability for these guys as well. The nice thing about las weapons is that you could actually upgrade them later on over the course of the campaign. You can give them hotshot power packs to make them stronger. You can give them focusing crystals to give bonuses to accuracy. So because they're very cheap to upgrade, and they become pretty powerful later on as the campaign goes on. So it's actually a really good take in order to equip your techs with las weapons. Now, taking one of your techs and making them a specialist and equipping that specialist with a special weapon is highly recommended. I recommend you actually do that at the very beginning of your campaign, because this high ballistic skill in combination with a special weapon just makes them super deadly. Like I said, plasma rifles is the way you want to go with this guy if you want to equip him with a special weapon. Alright, so up next are your Neotechs. These are your prospects. These guys cost 70 credits, and the reason why you got these guys is they got really good stats. First of all, for their movement value, they have 5-inch movement. They have 5 weapon skill, 4 ballista skill, 3 strength, 3 toughness. They have 1 wound, +4 for their initiative, +1 attack. They also have 9 up for their leadership, 8+ for their cool, 9+ for willpower, and 7+ for intelligence. Now, why do we like these guys? The Neotech is actually kind of neat because this is the character that basically rides around on the Grav Cutter, which is kind of like them surfing through the skies of the Underhive. So because of that, these guys are extremely fragile fighters. That's the downside about Neotechs, but they're extremely fast. Not only can they fly around these Grav Cutters, they can also attack with these Grav Cutters as well, and kind of get these guys to seize your objectives in this game. Necromunda is a very objective heavy game, so because of that, being able to seize objectives with your Neotechs is actually very, very important. Also, unfortunately for these guys, are also pretty expensive to field just because you're talking about 70 credits right off the bat. Now, the good news is that if they get shot at, they can't be pinned because they're Grav Cutters, so that part's kind of nice. They're perfect for flyby bombing, so having them fly by your opponents and dropping grenades on them. You could also do swoop attacks with your Grav Cutter and attack guys in close combat. And because of the lower ballistic skill, you might want to equip them with template weapons like a hand flamer if you have enough credits for that. Now, even though they have a lower ballistic skill though, that's not as bad. You can still equip them with blast pistols and stuff, but hand flamers on Neotechs is actually a pretty deadly combination. Like I said before, the way you want to use these fighters is primarily for screening, for drawing enemy fire, to do objective capturing, and of course doing coup de grace as their main primary objective, to just taking people out left and right. And the last fighter we're going to talk about is the Humble Subtech, which is your Van Saar Juvie. This character costs 35 credits. They have 5-inch movement, 5+ weapon skill, 4+ ballistic skill. They have 3 strength, 3 toughness, 1 wound, 4+ for initiative. They also have 1 attack, 9+ for the leadership, 8+ for cool, 9+ for willpower, as well as 7+ for intelligence. Now, when it comes to your guys' subtechs, they're the cheapest fighters that you have in your gang, and at the same time they can still equip last guns. They still have rifles, which is really, really nice. And like I said before, rifles, last guns are really easy to upgrade and make them primarily powerful, so that part's really nice. And just like with every single juvie that you have in every gang, screening, objective capturing, and coup de grace are their primary jobs. Okay, that's what they primarily do. The only problem with those jobs that these subtechs have is that Neotechs can do it better because Neotechs are very, very quick. Now, the reason why you might want to go the Subtech over Neotech is because the type of the point cost for these guys. They're significantly cheaper in terms of point than Neotech, so that's the reason why you would probably go with the Subtech. So if you don't want to go the Neotech because they're a little bit more expensive in point value, then you could easily substitute with Subtechs. They're pretty fast for what they can do with 5-inch movement. They could be the fastest members of your gang. Just realize though, they're not going to be as quick as your Neotechs. That's the only problem with that. So now that we're done talking about your different gang fighters and what they can and can't do, let's go ahead and talk about your gang lists. Alright, so the very first gang list I recommend for you guys is the Cheapskate build. And the reason why I call this a Cheapskate build is because it is the least expensive option. All you need is 1 box of Van Saar. And this list will also help you generate 1,000 credits for your starting gang. Now, this one is primarily a shooting build, and that's going to be a thing that you see throughout all these different lists, and the reason why is because that's what Van Saar do well. There isn't much in terms of close combat or assaulting for the most part with this gang. Now, victory is this gang is by trapping your opponent in a crossfire. What you want to do is take your 2 fire teams, and what you want to do is capture your enemy in a crossfire, either having one guy firing on the long axis of the target with another guy flanking them, or catching them in kind of like any way that you can. You can have both your fire teams concentrating their fire. Fire team number 1 will consist of your leader, as well as ganger number 1, ganger number 2, as well as ganger number 3, and fire team number 2 will consist of augment number 1, augment number 2, as well as ganger number 4. So let's go ahead and talk about exactly what these guys consist of. So for your prime, it's going to cost you 250 credits for this character. He's going to be armed with a plasma gun, as well as a last pistol as a backup weapon. He also has mesh armor and a body glove, and he also has the commanding presence ability. This guy's got a really excellent armor save, so that way he doesn't worry about getting shot at, as well as close combat. He's also pretty good for close combat with that last pistol as well, and he's got that plasma gun, which is really going to tear it up. You get that commanding presence on there, and you can group activate a lot of fighters. Now, augment number 1 is going to be armed with a plasma gun. He's also got mesh armor, a body glove, as well as the fast shot ability, and he's going to cost you 225 credits. I cannot state how important it is to have that fast shot ability on this plasma gun. Fast shot basically makes shooting a simple action, which means this character can fire twice with this plasma gun, and with rapid fire, it can be extremely deadly. Now, augment number 2 is going to cost you 225 credits. Now, this character is going to be equipped a little bit differently. This character is going to be equipped with 2 plasma pistols. He's got mesh armor as well as a bodyguard, as well as hip shooting. And this guy's going to be used to kind of like skirt around your opponents. He might be kind of good for close combat because plasma pistols are very deadly, but you do want to keep him away from close combat if possible. This guy's got the plasma pistols in order to shoot up close, so he's your hit and run guy. You send him up, shoot, have him bounce back. Now, the other rest of the members of this gang consists of 4 gangers. Gangers 1, 2, and 3, and 4. They're all going to be exactly the same. Each of them is going to cost you 75 credits. Each of them is going to be carrying a last gun as well as a body glove. And these guys are your long-range shooters, shooting at your opponents at distance and either pinning your opponents or wounding them from long-range fire. And that pretty much makes up the Cheapskate build from our very first gang list. Alright, so the second build is what I like to call the standard build, and this is the kind of build that most players will be spending their money on. Usually it consists of a player buying a box of Van Saar gangers, as well as a new box of Archaeotech Neotech that you also get as well. Now, because you're taking fighters from both box sets, this gang list is going to cost you 1,000 credits. You're going to use up all your credits in order to create this. Now, this list is more of a balanced game approach. You have equally good long range shooting, but you also have some good close quarters battle as well. And just like the previous gang, this also consists of 2 elements. You have a support element as well as an assault element. Now, your support element will consist of your prime as well as augment number 2, tech number 1, and tech number 2, while your assault element will consist of augment number 1 and then neotech number 1 and neotech number 2. And the nice thing about this gang is that this gang is set up to allow for a lot of customization within the future in terms of equipment you give these guys, and you can pretty much, for the most part, kind of do almost everything that a Van Saar gang can basically do right from the jump. The only thing you really don't have at this point are your Archaeotechs. But like I said before, you're really not going to purchase those guys until you get later on to the campaign. So let's go and talk about your gang members as well as their equipment. So first of all, for your prime is going to have to cost you 245 credits. He's going to arm with a plasma gun. He's got mesh armor as well as a body glove. He's also got the fast shot ability, so that way this guy can do multiple shots with this plasma gun. Now, augment number 1 is going to cost you 180 credits. This character is going to have a plasma pistol as well as a last pistol. He's going to have mesh armor as well as body glove as well as gunfighter abilities. That way he can use both his plasma gun and his last pistol in shooting, and at the same time be able to fight in close combat if he needs to with both of those weapons. Now, at the same time, augment number 2 is going to cost you 245 credits. Now, this guy is going to be used for long range shooting. He's going to be armed with a grav gun, mesh armor, body glove, and hip shooting. The nice thing about the grav gun is that while it might not do a lot of damage, what it'll do is it'll slow down your opponents from closing the distance to get up to you. So if you're fighting against a close combat oriented gang, you can use a grav gun to slow them down, and as they're being slowed down going past that grav well, you can shoot at them with your weapons and, hopefully will slow them down. Now, at the same time, you also have 2 techs or 2 gangers. They're both equipped exactly the same. They've both got last guns as well as body gloves, and both of them cost 75 credits. And lastly, you have 2 neotechs in this gang, Neotech 1 and Neotech 2. Both of you are going to cost you 90 credits apiece. Both of them are with last pistols. Both of them are with photon flash grenades as well as body gloves. Now, these guys' job is to basically spam those photon flash grenades. Their goal is to fly around the battlefield, drop these photon flash grenades, stop your enemy advance, so that way buys you time to shoot your enemy down and to whittle them down for the most part. And that pretty much makes up the standard build for this gang list. Alright, the very last one is called the Major Moneybags build, and the reason why I call this the Major Moneybags build is because it's going to cost you the most amount of money to fill this group. You're going to need 1 box of Van Saar gang members, you're going to need 1 box of Archaeotechs and Neotechs, as well as a Forge World weapons pack. And of course, this will also be a full 1,000 point gang. Now, this build is more of a close combat Van Saar build, taking advantage of the close range shooting skill that Van Saar gangs have access to. So because of that, you will have a lot of short range shooting and close quarters battle, which is great because you get some bonuses for firing up in short range with weapons, and at the same time you're taking advantage of the Van Saar's high ballistic skills in order to do that. At the same time, there is still a lot of long range support to cover up your close quarters combatants, so that part would be really nice for this one. The main thing you want to use for this gang is that your neotechs in this gang will be grabbing objectives for scenarios. So it's very, very important for you to remember that as well. Now, this one actually consists of 3 fire teams. You have 1 support team as well as 2 assault teams. Your support fire team will consist of tech ganger number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Assault team number 1 will consist of your prime, your 2 augment number 1, as well as augment number 2, and a sub-tech as well. And then your assault fire team will consist of neotech number 1 and neotech number 2. So let's go and talk about exactly how they're equipped. Now, for your prime, he's going to cost you 150 credits. He's going to be equipped with 2 last pistols, flak armor, body glove, as well as hip shooting. So this guy is more of a close combat shooting type, getting up close and personal and shooting at your opponents. Now, your next 2 augments are equipped exactly the same. Both of them are going to be costing you 175 credits apiece. Both of them will be equipped with plasma pistols. Both will have last pistols. Both will have flak armor, body guns, as well as a gunfighter skill. And the reason why you want to have that is because both these guys are equipped exactly the same. That way they can also engage in close combat with their plasma pistols. They can still shoot with their weapons and still cause some problems. Now, at the same time, you also have a couple of gangers. You have 4 gangers in this one. Ganger number 1, 2, 3, and 4. All of them will cost exactly the same amount of points, as 75 credits. These guys are packing last guns as well as body gloves. And then, of course, you got your 2 neotechs, neotech number 1 and neotech number 2. These guys cost 80 credits apiece. They're both equipped with twin last pistols as well as body gloves. And then finally, you have a sub-deck who's going to cost you 40 credits, and this character's armed with a last pistol as well as a body glove. So like I said before, the gangers are good at your techs. They're going to be doing all the long-range shooting, while your augmechs as well as your prime and the sub-tech will be doing the close assaulting, and your neotechs will be flying around harassing your opponents and also seizing objectives as best they can. And that pretty much makes up what I like to call the major moneybags build. Alright, you guys, so there you have it. This is the actual recommended starting gang list that we have for House Van Saar players as well. This gang is extremely fun to play. They got a lot of shooting going on for them as well as the new boxes that they have coming out for the Archaeotechs as well as the Neotechs. They have a lot of interesting game mechanics going on for this gang as well. And like I said before, if you like shooting, like keeping your distance, you can't go wrong with the Van Saar gang. These guys are the kings of high-tech weaponry as well as long-range shooting. And as long as you can mitigate your opponents from closing the distance and attacking in close combat, you're pretty much going to be dominating the battlefield in most cases. So that's good to do for this one, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is valuable to us as always. Also, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest, greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good to do for this one, you guys. We'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.